What's happening, y'all? Today's show is sponsored by Show Pro Beard Co., bringing you the finest all-natural, non-waxy beard balms on the market. Check out showprobeardco.com and use the code ROADIE for exclusive deals.
What's happening, roadies? This is Brian Rashaf.
This is Matt Humanov.
What's happening, roadies? This is Peter Levin, and you're listening to Roadie Free Radio.
What's up, roadies? My name is Larry Milburn, and this is Roadie Free Radio, your VIP pass to meet and greet the stars behind the scenes of the music and film business. All right. What is happening, roadies? Welcome to episode 143. This is your host, Larry Milburn. I'm coming at you from a very echoey kitchen in Northwest Connecticut. What is going on? Man, what a last week. What a weekend. We got Peter Levin on the show today. I'm very excited. Keyboardist Peter Levin of the Blind Boys of Alabama and Gregg Allman fame and many, many others. First up, as you know, well, you know what? Not first up. First up, I'm not just going to start throwing stuff at you. How are you guys doing? Are you okay? Did you have a good weekend? Everybody working hard, man? Summer. If you're up in Connecticut, if you're in New England, you probably smelled something familiar in the air over the last few days as the temperature dropped. Fall is coming, man. It's right around the corner. I can smell it. I could smell it in the air as I limped outside with my crutches and my son, getting him ready for camp this week. Could smell that fall just creeping around the corner. Oh, and you know what comes after fall? Winter. Anyway, it's all good. I hope you guys are good. I hope you had a good weekend. The big announcement first up, as you know, the Black Bear Americana Music Festival happening Columbus Day weekend, October 11th, 12th, and 13th, right up here in Goshen, Connecticut in Litchfield County. Oh, I am excited. They still have not really released the official lineup. It will be coming out within the week, I think. They're just finalizing some deals, man. You know how these bands are. You know these artists and their writers and their green room demands. No, they got a good lineup of folks coming. Uprooted will be playing. Uprooted is they're like a part of the band Rusted Root. I guess most of the members are doing it, but one guy's not doing it, so they got to call it Uprooted. That's the deal. So they're going out, and they're going to be headlining this show, this event, this festival. It's going to be awesome. They have tons of great food, tons of great crafts and vendors and whatnot. There is an acoustic jam tent that's kind of like an open mic jam tent that's going to be happening. I may bring the acoustic guitar and do some sitting in, playing some tunes. We'll see. I finally got to play the guitar the other day for about 25 minutes. I sat my son in front of my computer, let him watch a show, plugged in the Telecaster to a nice early 70s, I think it's an early 70s amp peg. It's my brother-in-law's amp. Fired that thing up. Man, that was nice to play. My fingers hurt after 20 minutes. Whatever. It's fine. I got to play. I feel good. Black Bear Americana Music Fest. Head over to blackbearmusicfest.com. As I've said, I will be there getting out some content, getting out some videos, checking in with Power Station Events, who is also helping to put on the event, do the back line, do the staging, do the front of house, do the back of house, do the monitors, do the whole thing. Power Station Events in Cheshire, Connecticut. They are awesome, man. And they've got one of those stages that like sort of comes out of itself. You know what I mean? It kind of grows on its own with the whole hydraulic lift situation. I'm going to try to do some time lapse of them building the stage and getting that all together. So stay tuned for that. But head over to blackbearmusicfest.com and let me know if you're coming. They got camping, all sorts of good stuff. The weekend was groovy. I overdid it on my foot. I have to say, as I said in the last episode, it's pretty amazing. I haven't had that much pain at all. I have not had to rely on the oxys, which is great. But I did overdo it a bit this weekend because guess what? It was my birthday. Did I tell you last week? I know I rattled off a bunch of birthdays, and I can't remember if I put myself in there as well. But it was my birthday. I turned 48. 48 revolutions around the old record player, as they say. 48 trips on the tour bus. The wheels go round and round, friend. I feel pretty good. But I did overdo it on my foot. I'm trying to get ahead of myself, and it's only been, I guess, about 2 weeks since surgery. I should be using the crutches more. I'm just kind of hobbling with this boot. The bit of bad news that I got, I thought it was 2 weeks I couldn't drive. And when I talked to the doctor's office, they said, no, if it's your driving foot, it's by law mandatory 6 weeks, no driving. And that it bore a hole, a hot burning spear hole through my heart, because I gotta figure out the fall, kids. I gotta figure out what September's gonna look like with work, how I'm gonna get the balance done. You know what I mean? Maybe it just means I just do more episodes, just sit here and just crank out episode after episode, a phenomenal story. But yeah, I was down. I'm not gonna lie, I was down about that for a couple of hours, and then that old inspirational spirit kicked back in, and we're going to figure it out. My wife says, you know what, honey? We're going to figure it out. That's what we do. That's what we do. I should get that on a t-shirt. A bit of a downer news, as you guys probably heard, Aspen Pittman, the Groove Tubes founder and the author of the Tube Amp book, passed away a few days back. Bad car accident. And we lost Aspen Pittman. There's a great video that Norman from Norman's Rare Guitars put out on their YouTube channel that I put a link to in the show notes. If you'd like to see that, click that link. Norman does a nice tribute, better than I could do. He was close friends with him. I obviously did not know Aspen, but again, another one that I would have loved to have had on the show that I just didn't get to. But man, what a mark Aspen left on the industry. His Tube Amp book is like, it's like one of Richard Fliegler's book. It's a must-have. So there's also a link to that. Take it to the Amazon channel, and you can pick that up if you don't own one already. So Aspen and your family and whatnot, all the best wishes and love and support in this time from Roadie Free Radio. Guys, if you are looking for a place to buy clothing and gear that will not break down on you, that will not fall apart after a few months of wear and tear, look no further than StagehandsClothing.com. They've got everything that you need. They've got men's and women's apparel. They've got super cool tactical gear to keep you ready for the next task. All right, it's the one-stop shop for backstage professionals who are always working hard behind the scenes and count on high-quality, durable workwear. That's you. That's you, people. All right, you're backstage professionals is what you are. And you need stuff that's going to keep up with the demands of your everyday life. Head over StagehandsClothing.com. Use the code ROADIE. Get yourself 20% off your entire order. Peter Levin is my guest today. Oh man, this was a good one. This is another one from the Jason Greenberg vault, by the way. Another Jason Greenberg recommendation. He was spot on, this dude. He was spot on. I got a list from him and Nightbob I'm still working through. And speaking of my list of guests, before I get to Peter real quick, I just want to say a general apology to anyone in the industry who is not a sound person. If you're a video person, if you're a lighting person, any other department that I have not been hitting recently, I apologize. A buddy of mine who's out with the National right now is like, you really got to diversify your guest list and get off the sound thing. And I said, I'd like to, but what happens is someone like Jason hits me up with a list of like 9,000 people I should talk to that just happen to be audio people, or Nightbob does. And I just go on a run and I'm just trying to book people. And if those people happen to be, front of house or monitors or whatever, I just go in that zone. So you might not hear, about a video person or a lighting tech or whatever it is for a while. And I apologize. If you know someone who is not a sound person, who's a lighting person or a video guy or gal or whatever it is, and you want me to get them on the show, email me, info@roadiefreeradio.com. This is not a show just about the audio people, okay? Sorry to burst anybody's bubble out there, Nightbob, but this is not a show just about audio people, man. We gotta represent everybody behind the scenes that makes it happen. And I try to do that. Like I said, I go on a run of people. I send out the emails, and frankly, whoever gets back to me and I can slot them in, that's the episode. That's the one. We're going to start also opening it up to more artists as well. Got to give some of them their due, because that's who we all work for, the people out front. So Peter Levin, man, we had a good chat. I'm not going to give you too much because he and I we vibed. It was good. We talked about his long tenure with the Blind Boys of Alabama. Obviously, we also talked about his time playing keyboards for Gregg Allman and just some of the cool stuff that they did together, his recording of the last album at Fame Studios in Muscle Shoals. We talk about what he's doing now. He's just moved to Nashville. We also get into his company that he's partnered up with, Pure CBD Exchange. He's a big believer in the CBD movement right now, and Aspen Valley Hemp. A lot of cool stuff he's got going on there. And we really dug in the beginning we started talking about feel, and I was asking him, much like with Peter Shapiro in the interview I did with Peter Shapiro from Relics Magazine. I talked to Peter about vibe. Peter's a big vibe guy, and how there's a certain vibe at his concerts and his events and his venues. Same thing with Peter, but we talked about feel. How does a nice white guy from the Upper West Side of New York develop a feel, particularly in the genre of soul, rhythm and blues, R&B? How does he get that funk music? How does he get that feel? And where does he think he got it from? And can you develop it? Is it something you can learn? So we dive into that pretty quick. So this is going to be a good one for you guys. Listen, if any of you out there are solo musicians, or you've got a duo, or you've got a small project studio, and space is a factor for you in your car or your little van or whatever you've got, your home studio, head over to airturn.com. Since 2008, Airturn has been manufacturing wireless products as well. For all of you teleprompter people out there, check out airturn.com, man. Wireless products such as Bluetooth pedals and multifunction remotes, supporting hundreds of thousands of customers in over 40 countries. They've got so many different things to choose from, and not only the multifunction remotes and the wireless, Bluetooth pedals, but they also make great portable mic stands, such as the Airturn Go stand, which I use. They've got the iPad Manos, which is a phenomenal folding little unit that'll hold your iPad on stage, clicks onto your mic stand, all that kind of stuff. You're going to want to check out these products. Head over to airturn.com, use the code ROADIE, save yourself 10% off your entire order. ROADIE, when you head over to airturn.com, you get yourself 10% off your entire order. All right, that's about all I got for this week. We're going to jump right into this interview with Peter Levin. I hope you guys dig it. If you do, please let me know. info@roadiefreeradio.com. Leave me a comment or a review over at iTunes if you wouldn't mind. I'd appreciate it very much. Here we go with Mr. Peter Levin.
Hit it. Call yourself a roadie. Call yourself a roadie. Call yourself a roadie.
What's happening?
How you doing, pal? You're down in Nashville. I thought you were just there for Summer NAMM, but you are actually there because you now live there.
Yes, I'm actually here because I now live here. Correct, my friend.
How was that, pulling up those Brooklyn steaks?
Pulling up the Brooklyn steaks wasn't that bad. I'm originally from Manhattan. My wife and I, we were in Brooklyn for a few years, kind of to try out a new scene. We ended up moving back to Manhattan before we moved down to Nashville. So, coming from New York City, whether it's Brooklyn or Manhattan, it was a change, man. It was heavy at first. I do. I grew up eating Chinese food. I can't find Chinese food down here to save my freaking life. Any good Chinese food. Other than that, other than some of the, conveniences and sort of things you're used to, it's not that bad. I mean, there's pros and cons in any situation like that. The cons are a little bit more on the personal sort of selfish side. What I mean? I do. But overall, it's good. I mean, it's a music city, man. The city eats and breathes music. Whether you're a player, whether you're a writer, whether you're a publisher, whether you're a builder, whether you're a lighting dude, whether you're a whatever you are, it eats and breathes music, you know. So that's been pretty cool. And you know, look, like New York, they have some amazing players down here too. So you know, there were definitely some differences, but you know, cool differences. You know what I mean? If that makes sense.
Absolutely.
You know?
And you're an Upper West Side guy, right? Whereabouts?
Born and bred. I was born up on 111th Street in Broadway, man, right not too far from Columbia University. And for those old school New Yorkers, right across the street from Coronet Pizza, where they were the first ones to come out with that jumbo slice.
Right.
Yeah, back in the day.
The things we remember. And right near the old Birdland was up there.
Yes, that's right. The old Birdland was up there.
In '94. August, yeah.
Back in the day.
Yep.
I think that became Smoke. A bunch of years ago. Yeah. So yeah, man, it used to be a pretty sweet music scene up there, and there were also a lot of there was some decent bands coming out of Columbia at that time too. More on the jam band side, but cool. It was active. It was active. West End Cafe was up there. Had live music too.
Yeah.
Nice little scene up there for a few years.
I think we're about the same age because in the thing I read, you were going to college around the same time. Like 90, you jumped into college, right?
Yeah.
What are you, like 47, 48?
Yep, 48. Exactly.
Yeah, I'm about to be 48 in a couple of weeks. So we a lot of the same bands because I saw you did some stuff with God Street.
Yep, exactly.
Way back.
Yep. Did a few years with God Street. That was a great time, man. That was a great time in my life. That was a great time, sort of like, touring the country a bunch of times. They're all friends of mine. Over the years, I still play music with Aaron, somewhat regularly, a little less these days, unfortunately. But those guys are actually back on the road now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, way back, I was with them for a few years, and it was great, man. I loved their material. Yep. It was a real pleasure, man. We had a lot of laughs.
Yeah, I bet, man.
It was great. It was an awesome time, and that's why whenever they're around and I'm in town when they're playing, I usually go by and say hi and maybe sit in on one or two and just have some laughs.
Yeah, I bet, man. And you went to University of Rochester, right?
I did.
Yeah. So at the same time, I was a few hours, I don't know which direction, north, I guess, further north, at a little school called St. Lawrence University.
Yeah, St. Lawrence, sure.
Right, and so we had probably a lot of the same bands: God Street, Mo, Fish, Blues Traveler, Spin Doctors, right? All that shit coming through. Yeah. And man, I remember seeing Blues Traveler in a fraternity house when I was a senior in high school, and I went up to visit St. Lawrence.
Right.
And they were like, "Oh, you got to see this band." It was like, "Oh, who the fuck are these guys?" And it was a fraternity basement, and it was packed. And there he was wailing away, and you're like, oh my god. And then the next year was when that album came out, and all you heard was Gina and but anyway, right? Just blasting down the hall.
Yeah, man. That's how a lot of those bands broke back then. There was because it made sense. Those frats had a lot of money.
Yep.
And you could do. It's funny, man. They probably made more money back then than they did now. Oh shit! No, but everyone did, not just them. That's just that's how the scene was then. The bands I was with then too did the same thing, man. We would literally go around in the frats, drop our goddamn fucking tapes off, and occasionally we get a hit, and it was great.
Dave Matthews style, right?
Yeah, exactly. But then, as music got more sort of, well, not music, as independent college music got more sort of profitable and everyone could see the profit potential in it, it sort of got a little more corporatized. Well, not corporatized, but then, then, it would try to get taken over on a bigger level. And, then the schools would get involved, and then it was like a whole voting thing. And then it was, just, but so I guess my point was doing it through the frats was a way to keep the sort of independent aspect of it going,
Yeah. But it also, the word of mouth power.
Right. Word of mouth.
Of that touring, that style of touring back then, which I don't know if you can do that today.
Right. Exactly. It's a different animal now.
I don't know if you need to do that today with file sharing and whatnot, and some of these streaming services, right? You got to tour, you got to make money.
Sure. On the music level, yeah. But the thing, yeah, totally. I mean, there's a lot of other things. I mean, I think a lot of the bands, get by on touring by selling their merch. So if they're just relying on radio sales, they're probably, you know what I mean? You got to be out there to make money. I think, look, man, every day that goes by, I know less and less, but I think, if you're not, you got to be out there to be making money. I think.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. It's funny. So after college in 94, I moved up to 104th and Broadway.
Oh, nice.
And I lived up there. What's that?
Sal and Carmine's.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly, man. And I was like a block or two from Birdland right in there.
Yep. Yep.
And Tap a Keg. I don't even remember that bar.
Sure, yeah. Tap a Keg, man. Absolutely.
That was a zone. That was a good zone. Then I was like, you know what? Still too close to home. I got to move to L.A. So I did 15 years out there.
Oh, wow. Cool.
But and came back here recently. But anyway, it's not my episode. This is your episode.
All right.
So you started playing at a young age. Your mom was a classical pianist, right?
That's right.
Concert pianist.
Concert level pianist. She wasn't on the circuit or anything like that. She was actually an English teacher at Music and Art High School, which was the brother or sister school to Performing Arts, which is what that movie Fame was based on.
Right.
Was the marriage of those two schools. So she was a concert level pianist. She was really amazing, but she didn't, perform out or anything,
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's where I, started with her at an early age.
She drilled it into you.
Oh yeah. She certainly did.
I'm going to jump ahead here for a sec because, in doing my research for you and listening and whatnot and watching and again, listening to how you play and the stuff that affected you at a younger age to play and the genres of music that you like to live within. That's all about feel. So how does a nice Upper West Side boy get the feel? Because and we'll drop some of the names of some of the people you've played with, but particularly in this style, right? Blind Boys, Gregg, the Allmans. You play with a lot of people, but they got a feel. So how did you get that? How did you hone that? You can be a fan, you can be a student of that music, right? But it's another thing if you can't really play it and feel it.
Yeah, man. Well, wow, that's a heavy question.
I come out swinging.
Yeah, man. Hey, you got to. Well, no, that's a great question, man. I mean, the eternal debate, right? Feel, do you learn it or do you have it or is it a combination of? I mean, I guess. On one level, that music you mentioned, I mean, obviously, I think it's a combination of things. I think some of it, some of that feel aspect, the ability to just, because
you can't, can you teach it? Can you teach someone feel?
At the end of the day, I would have to say no. I don't personally, I don't think you can. I think it really is something that is, that doesn't mean to say that some people that don't have it, aren't I mean, that's the thing too. Also, the definition of feel, it is somewhat relative.
Sure,
you and I, it's relative to us because you've mentioned the music you mentioned. You know what I mean? And I know what feel means to you by the music that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Feel to someone else might mean something entirely different.
Yeah.
So it's, granted I'm being a little political here, but, there might be certain kinds of music that I might not have the feel for, and I'm sure there are. But I think overall, I think either you're born with it or you're not.
So I guess then we'll dig a little deeper into it this way. How about this? Because if you are a classical musician, that requires a certain type of feel.
Right. Exactly.
You're down in the home of country, fucking Grand Ole Opry town.
Right.
You got to have a certain kind of feel.
Exactly.
Right, to pull that thing off.
Exactly.
But to play the blues, to play funk, and soul, you you got to really have a certain kind of feel, and that kind of feel is almost geographically centered.
Yes, no, absolutely. I mean, that's the music I grew up listening to. I grew up, really, a lot of my friends I grew up with, were all into basically what was white music, man, like freaking, God,
I'm trying to think what else was relevant when we were kids.
Really, honestly, to tell you the truth. Yeah. No, but a lot of white radio and
Def Leppard.
But I like that, but more I don't know, poppy, I don't know what, glitzy type. I don't even want to name bands just to offend anybody.
Right.
You know what I mean? But the music, regardless, it doesn't even matter, because the music I loved and grew up listening and loved a lot was I had this, I listened to a lot of freaking R&B stations, man. When I was growing up in New York, as you're saying, it was geographical, but it was like BLS, which was and KTU. Those are like the R&B, soul stations, and that's just the music I gravitated to then, as a kid, and as kids you soak up things a lot faster, so that's the music I was listening to as a kid. And once I started, and that was really before I started getting into actively playing. Right. Once I was getting into playing and I was getting a little older is when I sort of got into the, Allman's World and Jimmy, sort of, getting into more of the, blues, funk, Stevie, all that. So, having that kind of fondness for R&B at a young age, I think is what you were talking about, has helped me bring that and help bring my feel and have that feel for the types of music you were talking about.
Yeah, because I imagine too, there's a process of you're copying it in the beginning, right, and then as you play more and more, and you're around more of those people. Because I'd be curious to know, for you, you started with Blind Boys 2007.
Yeah, actually, early 2008 was my first gig on Conan show. Yeah.
I wonder how your playing changed. All of a sudden, it was like, what, you were a 7-year run with those guys?
No, I'm still with them.
Oh, you're still with them? Okay, so
yeah. I mean, they do a lot of, they do a lot of touring with other folks. I think they're out now with some other folks. They're backing up or playing with Mark Cohn, and they're with these African artists whose name escapes me. But point being is, they do a lot of
co-headlining type stuff.
Well, co-joining, like the Blind Boys will join up with another artist, and they'll do a tour together, playing each other's music.
Oh, gotcha.
It's pretty cool, like that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Like a co-mingling of acts, kind of.
They're crossing streams, as they say.
Yes, exactly. But so when they're back in the U.S. and they do just Blind Boy dates, band dates, I still play with them. I think we're doing one in August, opening up for the Raconteurs actually.
Damn.
Yeah, it'd be killer. It's gonna be killer.
Wow.
Yeah.
But so how is your playing? Because again, if you go back to you're ingesting a lot of that music, and we're talking about feel and whatnot.
Right.
When you start playing with people that have feel, if you're open enough, you are going to take some of that in. You're going to be watching, and you're in a perfect seat to sit back there and watch, or sit next to the Gregg Allman.
Right.
And I think, a lot of the power and stuff comes from watching what people don't play.
That's true. Yeah. Totally. Absolutely.
So how that, again, to go back, like, how did your sound and your thing change in the time that you've been with the Blind Boys?
That's a great question. It's changed a lot. It's definitely, when I first met Joey Williams, who is the Blind Boys music director, guitar player, and singer. We met. He liked my playing. Again, like you're talking about, I came up with the R&B, he liked the way I played, but I didn't really. I have great ears. I could play some of that. R&B and gospel are closely related.
Yeah.
So in my songs, he heard that not my songs, but in some of my songs, and what he heard initially to ask me to join the band was some of that gospel stuff. I didn't grow up playing it. So long story short, to answer your question about how it's changed, when I started playing with the Blind Boys, it definitely changed. It definitely got probably more mature. Got more mature. And it changed because I came up in the sort of a combination of the hip hop world and the jam band world. My ears are good enough. I was always able to play with a singer, but I never really had, real experience, backing up singers like that. I mean, they're the real deal. Blind Boys are the real deal.
Yeah.
I worked with, some singers and stuff who were great, good, but really working with those guys, it was a crash course, man. It was, not to get technical or whatever, but, you're really you're a supporting role there, so it's even harder because, anyone can go out there and just freaking solo all day. I mean, anyone could do that, but to control it and keep it interesting and stay within the style, and at the end of the day, make sure they're not looking around saying, "Hey, something ain't sounding right." You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You gotta get it together. But I was really fortunate enough. They really. I mean, those guys are great. They've always never always been, encouraging about, my playing. They've all, they liked it from the start, and the suggestions they made, I brought to the table, and I think that part of what they liked too was, help keeping them, not current, but help keeping them musically relevant into maybe different crowds or whatever. Mm-hmm. Maybe my playing brought a little something to the table for them. I'm not a traditional gospel player, which in this situation, when they wanted to bring keyboards in and sort of expand their fan base, I guess, for lack of a better word, maybe they appreciated a little of that as well.
Sure.
Kind of commingling the styles, and so it's changed in a lot of ways. Again, it's definitely gotten more mature. I'm really in tune to like listening to their harmonies, and sometimes I got to voice my chords. When I hear them singing a certain way, I got to give them the right note in the right spot to, so they can hear them. You know what I mean? Little things like that, tricks of the trade type stuff. You learn how to voice your chords so their harmonies can ring out. That's technical stuff. On just the sort of emotional, heartfelt music side, I mean, it's changed dramatically too. I mean, like I say, it's just a more mature working with them has just been helped me grown, really. My playing grown. I don't know. I hope that describes it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it does, man. I think it does. And what about working? Obviously, you had a really nice tenure with Gregg Allman.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Sat next to the guy.
Yeah.
What are some subtle things that you sort of glean from him?
I mean, that's a good question too. I mean, from Gregg, I got to think about that for a sec. I mean, a lot of things. I mean, you think you have feel until you sit next to someone like that.
Right. Kind of humbling.
Yeah. Oh my God. Totally.
And I read that little bit, where you talk about playing with him early on, and he let you take his solo.
Yeah.
In Elizabeth Reed, right? Something like that.
Yeah. I think it was Peach Fest. I can't remember. It was
Peach or Mountain.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a lesson there in almost humility for a guy.
I know.
Right?
It was so heavy. Crazy.
And you got to be ready, right? you got to be ready.
Yeah, you got to be ready.
You can't balk.
I mean, that's the other thing about that. Again, you think you're ready. You know what I mean? I mean, I grew up listening to all that stuff. I mean, we were backstage, and I had a whole list. Gregg pulled out a whole list. I knew every one of those songs, but you get on stage and you're like,
and you don't know shit.
Holy shit, I don't know a fucking thing. And the band is just like, I mean, it's like, dude, it is a full fucking steam ahead. You know what I mean? It's like, it's hold on or die, basically,
right.
Is what it is,
Yeah. Because that was Derek and Warren.
Yeah, Derek, Warren, O'Teal, Butch, Quinones, J-Mo. I mean,
the deal.
Yeah, it's a deal, bro. It was a deal. It was a deal.
Do you remember playing, or is it at this point just like, holy shit?
Playing, dude. I just remember being probably the only time in my life I've been nervous on stage. Really, maybe one of 3 times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's like, it's like, you, like I say, man, I grew, I more than even grew up with that music. Like I've studied that music. A lot of folks study jazz over the years. They transcribe Coltrane solos, Parker solos, this and that. Like I transcribed those solos.
Wow.
So I knew that shit cold on every level, from listening to it, and from an academic perspective too.
Right.
But it doesn't matter, man. All that shit went out the window when you're on stage and you're sitting next to Gregg, and he's like, "All right, you know it," and you're just like, "Yeah, I know it," And then the band gets going. You're like, "Wow, this is like nothing you've ever fucking experienced in your life."
And I can also imagine too. It's like you're in like the best cover band for that music. You know what I mean? Like you're in that band. Like there's the rhythm section.
Right. Yeah.
Basically, like there it is happening.
Yeah. It's there. It is.
So you've got. I guess my point is, so you've got the support You're not in like a high school band trying to figure it out, and your drummer's like a half beat behind. Like it's right there.
Yeah, it's right there. It's happening. I mean, you're in it. It's there. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. It was.
What's your the song? Is that the song for you of theirs?
Well,
or his?
No, that's not the song of mine for theirs. That's definitely one of my favorites to play. But if I had to pick a song for theirs, it would probably be one of Gregg. It would probably be one of Gregg's tunes, because probably one of his. I don't know, man. I love so many of. Obviously Dickie's got some great tunes too. But for me personally, I identified with Gregg's tunes a little more, just because they're more R&B in nature, and Queen of Hearts is one of my favorites. Obviously, man, I love Come and Go Blues.
Yeah,
it's one of my favorites too.
Yep.
God, I mean, I'm blanking right now, but there's a few. At the end of the day, he really was a ballad guy, and I'm a ballad guy too. So, so those are a couple titles.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
But reading those instrumentals and all those are obviously, from a musician standpoint, a blast to play. I
mean, a song like Dreams, to stretch out on a tune like Dreams.
Dreams, totally, man. Of course, one of my favorites. I mean, exactly.
Yeah,
That's
just let it fly.
Yeah, Let It Fly. Exactly. So yeah, a big fan of his writing.
You remember the first time you played a Hammond B3?
I do, actually. It was probably up in Rochester, New York, somewhere. We used to do a lot of playing at this local club up there called Living Legends. It was a dive bar. It might even still be there. Old dive bar / biker bar type situation. There was a buddy of mine up there that was like in the Hammonds and stuff, and kind of got me into them. And one or two local folks were in the Hammonds, so there was a little kind of Hammond community up there going. And my buddy actually bought one, started playing it around the city, and every once in a while I'd jump on and play it, and just kind of fell in love with it then.
Because you obviously knew the sound of it.
Yeah,
but I imagine so there must have been a party that was like, man, I gotta fucking try that thing.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So eventually I ended up trying one, liking it a lot. A few years later, I ended up getting one of my own. Once I sort of, moved back to New York and started touring with bands like God Street, was when I started kind of, I guess, building my rig up, and was playing Hammond organ with them. So having a little history before I started touring on my own in my early 20s was helpful, because
sure.
I guess what I'm trying to say is, as soon as I got on the road touring, there was a Hammond in front of me, there was a Rhodes, this and that. So I had experience with those type of rigs, and obviously I knew the sound from the records growing up. So it all sort of came together at that point, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, so I definitely started playing, got on the Hammond probably in my late teens, early 20s.
Yeah. Did you know by the time you got to Rochester that this was it? This was going to be the thing?
Yeah, I did. I at the time I was already studying drums at a drummers collective in New York City, and I'd been taking classical music lessons since I was a kid, since I was in third grade, or maybe even younger. And then I was also taking these jazz piano lessons, where it was more than just jazz piano. It was more at that time, they were just getting good with sequencing with computers and stuff. So I started taking lessons with this dude who in the city who was like really helpful in helping me to like start writing songs and like arranging music and like synthesizers. So it was really cool. At a young age, I got hip to some cool shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
More playing scales and modes and blah blah blah. Like I was getting into like I guess production, for lack of a better word, and songwriting and so yeah. I don't know to answer what you were talking about.
Yeah.
So when I went to Rochester, taking all that with me, I knew that's what I wanted. I wanted to be in music,
Yeah. Did you think it would get you to where you are now?
Well, I gotta tell you, it's funny how you manifest things in life. I remember this is really wild, but I remember, I want to say like, I'm surprised and not surprised. Let's say it like that. I mean, I remember as an early kid, even before I had any connection to, any of these folks I've worked with, I just remember in my head growing up, like, I just had a feeling one day I was going to be playing with some of these people, some of my idols. And sure enough, I was, I mean, is it a fluke? I don't know. I don't think so. I grew up listening to their music, and over time you put yourself in positions that eventually get you to where you want to go if you manifest it hard enough. So I'm not really that surprised. I mean, I was playing with the Blind Boys and, Warren asked me one night, he was like, he asked the Blind Boys to come down and they were doing these Beacon shows, and all of a sudden the Blind Boys were sitting in with the Allman Brothers. So those two worlds collided. Not too long after is when I got, the call from Scott, to see what was up with joining Gregg's band. It all started connecting. I don't think that's a fluke, man. I think that's grand design.
Yeah.
I mean, I was born on one of the days of, one of their greatest concerts ever. I don't think that's a fluke either. You know what I mean?
I do.
Picture type thing. So, and I'm
only what's that concert? What's that?
Well, I ought to tell you, but I'm worried about identity theft and all that type of shit.
Oh shit!
But you know what I mean. But I guess I could tell you it's not really a big deal. I mean, anyone could really find out my birthday anyway. But no, man, I was born on September 23rd, 1970, which was their one of that Fillmore East.
Wow.
What they got some of those recordings from,
Right.
So I think that was pretty wild too. That's one of my greatest, one of my favorite concerts or partials from them. And I don't know, it's a kind of a close connection personally,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Flash forward 45 years later, and I'm playing with them, That's pretty wild.
It's pretty crazy, man. Pretty crazy.
But, yeah, it's crazy. It is. It's crazy.
Let's shift gears a little bit.
Sure.
And talk about your own personal music.
Okay.
You got an EP out?
I got an EP out. I got an EP out. I put that out a little while ago. All songs I wrote. I used a bunch of my New York City connection, my New York City musician friends at the time. But I also have a new record that I'm releasing soon. I've been working on it for the last goddamn 2 years. Which is man, I probably should have sent you some mixes because what you heard is very cool, man. It's good stuff. But but I'm also really excited about what I'm putting out now. I recorded most of it down in practically all of it down in Muscle Shoals at Fame Studios.
Oh yeah.
After having worked with the Blind Boys and a few times and Gregg down there, we did Southern Blood down there.
Right.
And the Blind Boys, I worked with them a few times down there too. And now Rodney has sort of introduced me and a few of my friends from the Blind Boys band into New Fame Gang. So we've been going down there to do sessions too.
Oh wow! So yeah. let's hit for 1 sec. Let's just hit the pause button on that.
Okay.
And just tell me about recording at Fame in Muscle Shoals, and then eventually with Don Was.
Oh yeah, I mean, what can you say about that, man? I mean, it was.
I don't know. You tell me. I've never done it.
It was incredible. I mean, it was incredible. It's incredible. I mean, first of all, the history alone, speaks for itself.
Yeah.
You walk into that. I remember the first time I walked in there, and I've talked about it before. I mean, literally the fucking history and the vibe, it hits you like a brick wall. I mean, it hit me like a brick wall. I was just like, oh my God. And there was a certain smell and like a certain just fucking like, it was amazing, man. It was amazing. It was a real intense, it was an intense, situation, man. I mean, some of the best of the best, have worked in there. Some of the best songs ever have been recorded there. I mean, some of the best fucking stories have come out of there. It's and a lot of the folks I idolize musically, even got their start there. You know what I mean? So, it was heavy.
So you got to be able to push some of that shit out of the way when you sit down to bring your thing to the instrument, right? To the session.
Yeah, no, totally. That's what you do.
Because otherwise you'll get lost in all that and be intimidated.
Yeah. Well, the idea is at least for me, I took it more as an inspiring type thing.
Yeah.
I was like, man, I'm here now. I'm part of I was like, I'm here, a part of a, tradition, a line of folks that have worked here. And for a certain reason, there's a vibe, there's a reason why you go there.
Yeah.
At the time, it made, it just was something I wanted to do. I'd been there with the Blind Boys. I'd been there with Gregg. It just, I was comfortable there, man. There's some of the freaking nicest folks on the planet down there. I mean, really, they are folks down there. Really, they really, really are. It was a comfortable situation. It's a great place to make a record. So, so I went down there and just did it. I don't want to get sidetracked, but you were saying about the you were asking me about
just working in there and working with Don Was and
so Don Was, I'll get to that in a second. Recording my own music in there, you put all that aside and you're like, I'm part of this tradition now, and you just use it as inspiration, man. At least I did, and I think some of the performances on my record will show that.
Yeah.
Just the just the comfortableness and the inspiration of it all, like, that translates,
Yeah.
For working with Don there on Gregg's record, on the Southern Blood record, that was fucking incredible, man. First of all, Don's the man. He's a real freaking force.
He also seems like a player's producer.
Right, exactly.
Right, because he's out there, he's doing it. I like that about him.
And me too. And the thing, the main point I wanted to say about that was, I even said that to Don, man, was that the cool thing about working with Don on that was, over the years, being a side guy, I've worked with so many producers from the lowest to the top, and more often than not, a lot of them really want to micromanage you. You know what I mean? Which is cool, you know, like they got a vision and this and that, but you know, the fucking awesome thing about Don was he was like the farthest thing from that. And Gregg was like that too. You know, I can't stress that. And I mean, Gregg, you know, was like that too, man. He trusted you enough to be in the band. He trusted you enough to, you know, to bring some shit to the table and not worry about your ass. You know what I mean? Like, you know, but you know, I mean, that's not to say that, you know, he wouldn't tell you if he, you know, needed you to shift some things around, but you know what I mean? Like, he didn't sit there and be like, you know, you got to play it like this. You got to do this, like the record, blah, blah, blah. I mean, none of that bullshit. And Don was the same way, man. He let us just play. He let us play the songs that we had been playing, you know, comfortably, man. He didn't micromanage us at all. It was a real organic, enjoyable, beautiful, happy, fucking funny. I mean, the whole fucking thing was awesome, man. It was a real, just fucking beautiful way to make a record, man. It really was. And you know, as you know, a lot of the questions I get asked about it was, you know, they always want to focus in on the sad stuff, you know, because, you know, now looking back, everyone's like, well, you know, time frame and subject matter and you know, it's sad stuff, you know, and you know, but you know, there is a side of that, you know, but I wasn't really thinking about that then, man, you know, like, and I don't, you know, I mean, you choose what you want to focus in on in life, man. You know what I mean? You can sit and think about bad shit, or you can sit there and think about good shit. I try to think about good shit as much as I can. And being in Muscle Shoals and making a record with Gregg and the band and all that, it was, you know, you're not, you know, you're going to focus on good shit. I mean, that is a beautiful thing you're doing. You are a part of music history. Right. You know what I mean?
I do, yeah.
So, but anyway, I'm, you know, digressing a little bit. You know, back to working with Don, it was amazing, man. It was great. You know, he is a producer's producer. He's a musician's producer. He let us play. It was awesome. Yeah. It was awesome. It was really awesome, you know.
And you've got a whole other like hip hop, working with hip hop. First of all, your own studio, Moon Palace,
right,
has had the complete opposite end of the spectrum in terms of music come through there, right? You've worked with Korn.
Sure, yeah.
Train.
Yep.
The Beasties.
Yeah. So, just through my, you know, through sort of coming up in New York, you know, I was connected to the hip hop world in a lot of fronts, man. You know, I started touring with Snow early on. This kind of reggaeton, dancehall, not reggaeton, sorry, dancehall star. He had that big hit Informer back in the day. But because I could play halfway decent, you know,
that song.
Yeah, you remember that song, right?
Yeah.
You know, I sort of got in with him, and next thing you know, I was kind of, you know, like, I guess, for lack of a better word, kind of a house musician for MC Shan out in Queensbridge, who was Snow's producer and produced a lot of other acts. And, you know, I had a fucking crash course in the music business, like, overnight. You know, you can go to school for as many years as you fucking want, but until you're in a real situation, you don't know shit. Right. You know what I mean? So that was fucking a beautiful thing for me, man. You know, I got introduced to that real quick, but you know, again, cause I could play halfway decent and had a feel for the music. You know, they had me around and playing on some stuff. And, so I kind of had one foot in the hip hop, you know, kind of hip hop world, playing on some stuff. And at the same time had one foot in the jam band world, kind of coming up, you know. And then over time, I just kind of got, you know, known more as a little session player in that world, you know, cause, you know, hip hop's a little different, man. You know, it's you know, the music's not as open. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Guys aren't blowing solos all over the fucking place. It's controlled. Right. You know, it's more about the lyrics. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That kind of vibe. So the playing, the style is a little different. so I had a good feel for it, and next thing you know, I'm getting these sessions, and then it sort of bleeded over into like I had friends, a good buddy of mine, my buddy Sam Hollander at Ozone Entertainment was connected to this whole like emo world scene with bands like Fall Out Boy and all this, and I forget the name of their management company, but next thing you know, through my buddy, I'm getting fed a lot of session work through that world, well, anyway, that sort of bleed into the rock world. But yeah, coming up through the hip hop world, kind of bridged, as a session musician, bridged me into some other worlds as well, So,
well, I wanted
I got to work with bands like, Train and Korn, like you're saying. The Korn thing was actually interesting, man, because that was an old buddy of mine, Dante Ross, who was an old hip hop producer back in the day. So it all sort of just fed on each other. You get known as a session player there. You got a feel, and then for the music, and you work. But that was also at a time when the session work was a little more happening around town.
Right.
Things. But whatever, that's a whole other discussion. But
I was going to say it's interesting too, because I wonder if your time in that came along. I get my lineage wrong here. If your time came along in that when samples, when people were getting screwed for sampling other records, and rather than do that, they were looking at musicians who could do that. That. So you could add a little fill, some funky little thing or whatever it was to a Beasties record.
Yeah.
They didn't have to pay.
Right. Well, yeah. Well, the Beastie things was a different thing. That was actually with them. That was a remix project that I had worked on with my buddy Sam Sever, who was another New York City OG kind of producer. He had some stuff, worked on some stuff on that Raising Hell record, Run DMC record back in the day. So you're right. You're exactly right. Cause I could play and had a feel for the music, and at the time could play a few different instruments. I mean, I was studying drums, I was playing keys. So a lot of those cats would also get me cause I could save them a little bread by doubling up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I could also play bass too. But again, I digress. Where was I about that?
What they were talking about sampling and versus playing and whatnot.
Right. So a lot of cats, they would call it shadowing. A lot of folks would be like, "Hey man, I love this groove, but I want to get this vibe and I want to do this, but I can't clear the sample." So they would get folks like me in there to like massage it a little bit. Either the hustle is either you play it exactly, but because they're not using the masters, they don't have to pay the license. Or you do what that's kind of what they call shadowing. Or you kind of take their groove, you change it just enough.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that they can't come after you.
Yep.
Change it just enough to make it your own, but still have that vibe that attracted that producer to that original track in the first place. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so that's what it was. So yeah, man, there was a lot of sensitivity to that then about sampling and stealing that shit and because I mean, let's a lot of folks got screwed, man. A lot of folks that went through a lot of hard times and got nothing to show for it got screwed, so it's nice to see, cats, how they kind of, I don't know, it's nice to see some folks that deserve some money get some money for all that,
Absolutely.
I think.
No, for sure, man. Listen, it could happen to you one day off of your record, right?
Exactly.
Someone could live something to yours.
Exactly.
So having moved out of New York down to Nashville, did you close down Moon Palace?
Well, actually, I closed down my studio. I didn't close down Moon Palace. I had a studio for many years in the music building. That was in the Film Center building in New York City.
Okay.
That was the original Moon Palace, NYC. Then when I moved out to Brooklyn, I had a bigger studio. That was still Moon Palace, NYC. When I moved to then I shut that studio down. I still had the name, but I didn't have a place. now that I'm in Nashville, I got a little place. I got some stuff set up. So I'm back to like, you know, creating tracks and doing, Moon Palace is up and running. I'm not sure if I can, keep the NYC part,
right?
But I'm sort of shifting it to Moon Palace Entertainment now.
Oh, there you go.
It doesn't really matter where I am. I'm worldwide now.
That's right. That's right.
So yeah, I'm up and running, doing a lot of tracks for a lot of folks, man. I mean, still,
and you're out with Marcus now, right? Marcus King now.
I was out with Marcus. I was filling in. My buddy and their good friend D Vibes was playing with him for a while. They sort of split ways, so he could pursue some other things. So I sort of stepped in to cover some dates while they sort of figure out a possible full-time guy. They don't know where they're at with that. I had some prior commitments with folks like Amanda Shires and I play in her solo group, but also this kind of all-star women country group, the High Women. We start rehearsals next week and got Newport Folk Festival. So I had my point is I had some prior commitments. I couldn't commit full time to Marcus yet. But I'm probably, we talked about doing some shows in the future. And I had the best time playing with them, man. That's a killer band, talented cats. And, as a musician who grew up playing Allman Brothers music and, and all that and being with them, it was a real pleasure to get back to that. I'm really fortunate enough to really love and appreciate all the folks I play with. I mean, Blind Boys, Marcus, obviously Gregg when I was with folks like Amanda and such. I'm very fortunate, but some of that music is more, you're just launching off, man. It's open, it's nice. It was really nice to do that, to have that again, man. But anyway, cool. So I was out with Marcus for a little while.
Nice, man. Nice. We could talk music all day and
sure.
And I'd love to, but I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about Pure CBD.
Okay.
And what you're working on with that and how that came about for you and all that stuff, man.
Okay. So Pure CBD came about. So a buddy of mine, actually, funny enough, I was out. I'll give you the whole story from the start. My buddy Schneens from the band Lettuce. Right. You heard of those? Yeah. Okay. So that crew, I'm old friends with those guys. But Titus for Schneens. I was in Colorado, and I was looking for a
hookup.
A good spot, Denver, a good spot to go.
Yeah.
So he was like, hey man, call my buddy. So I called his buddy, and met his buddy. We whatever. We went down there. He took me to one of their shops there, so at the time, my buddy seems like, man, these guys love musicians. They'll take care of you. Yeah. So the guy he introduced me to did that very thing. So over time, I kept up with that buddy, my buddy Dylan, as time was going on, I was sort of kind of loosely involved in the legal, cannabis world, just through, folks that had money that I knew growing up as a kid that thought it would be cool to throw some money into the pot business, basically.
Right.
So whatever, but as I was sort of just kind of doing research and, listening to things on the news and, hearing things about, CBD, whatever, over time, I had sort of used Dylan as a kind of a consultant in that business, right? Running ideas past him, blah, blah, blah. So then he actually approached me one day. He was like, look, man, I'm thinking about getting into the CBD business. would you want to, you know, toss in some money or go in on it? So I did, basically, is what happened, you know, because the research I had done, it, you know, seemed to have a lot of like beneficial, you know, aspects to it. And, you know, given the fact that the country's in a huge like opioid crisis, maybe it could do some good for some people. Maybe if I was lucky enough, you know, my investment can grow, you know. So it seemed, you know, to be a good thing to do at the time. So I did it. So, you know, we started this company, and you know, over the last couple of years, it's grown. It was always sort of based around the notion of like, you know, I was always trying to keep my association with music as a part of it somehow. Like the company would like, you know, would promote, help co-promote a festival or something.
Yeah.
I would go, I would perform there. I would sit in with some bands under the pure CBD umbrella. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Promote the company through music. We got some ads. We got an ad or two in Rolling Stone. We got an ad or two about it in High Times. So, you know, over the last couple of years, it's grown. Through that, we started a second company called Aspen Valley Pre-Rolls, which is a CBD pre-roll cigarette. Again, those products have no THC, under 0.3% by law. Mm-hmm. So those are just pure CBD cigarettes. And, you know, it's been helping a lot of people out, man. You know, the some of the products that we sell through Pure, you know, have helped, you know, help people manage their pain instead of taking, you know, opioids. And there's been a lot, you know, some of the letters we've received from folks have been amazing, man. I mean, you know, they've been really, really inspirational. And, you know, we've had one or two events to help veterans too, which has been really cool.
Yep.
You know, so it's just something, you know, you know, it's going well. It's moving in a good direction.
That's
you
awesome,
know?
man. That's awesome. Have you felt the effects of CBD as well?
Yeah, I have, man. You know, certainly some of the, you know, as with any person, some of the products work better for folks than others. I'm a big fan of the rub for it because of my piano playing, banging on the piano for hours at a time. You know, when I get done, you know, sometimes my hands are in pain. Not pain, but, you know, just, you know what I mean? Sore, you know, and you know, especially if you're on an acoustic for 2 hours or something like that, you know? So that stuff really helps, man. That stuff really helps. So yes, you know, I part of the reason that I, you know, invested in it was I believe in the products too, you know. I don't think it's necessarily, you know, I mean, just for me personally, if I'm in, you know, I want to believe in the thing I'm investing in, I guess, you know. It makes for good practice.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Cool, man. I've been trying CBD recently because I got some feet issues that I'm trying to work out. And the oil, the salve, rub that on my feet.
Yeah.
I have a whole crazy regimen. I do like Tiger Balm in the morning and I just CBD later. And I got this BioFreeze stuff, you know, and it's probably the combination of everything is definitely helping somewhat, but I gotta dig deeper. But you know, what are you going to do, man? But, Levin, man, this has been awesome, dude. I like I said, we could go on and on, but I got to let you go. You got Summer NAMM to go check out. You got to finish unpacking your house there.
Yeah.
And a shout out to your wife, Robin, for helping get the Skype going.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, Robin. I think she's outside hula hooping right now.
Oh, nice.
Yep. Yeah, well, no, thank you, man. It's been a blast, man. I love talking about music, man. Anytime you want to talk about that, man, I'd be more than happy to, man. It was a real pleasure. Thank you.
Cool, brother.
Oh, Peter, man, thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it. Guys, we'll see you next week for episode 144. Don't forget, during the week, you can follow us at Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Podcasts, YouTube, and Spotify. all as Roadie Free Radio. Check out the website, roadiefreeradio.com, and send me a note because you know I want to hear from you. That's info@roadiefreeradio.com. And my friends, you know what to do in the meantime. Y'all be safe out there. No roadies, no rock and roll.